You're going to watch a video on supply and demand, mostly demand today, but I want to go and explain how some of what you're going to see might be different than what you're used to in math. And that can be kind of confusing in economics. So I just kind of wanted to shoot my own video to talk about some things you're going to notice. So if we were in algebra class and you were going to do like a linear equation and you had a table of x and y values, this is a pretty easy x and y value, and then you plot it on a graph like this, and this would be the equation y equals x plus 1, and then these are all your values. If you sub in x, that's what the value of y is. This is what you're used to in the most basics of algebra, or pre-algebra even. And that's what the graph looks like. We call this positive correlation because the values go up in a positive direction together. As x increases, y increases. It's kind of how it works, okay? That's kind of, in purple over here, what you'd find in algebra. In economics, it's a little bit different, and that can throw some of you for a loop. So we are going to create something called the demand schedule. It looks very similar to this linear equation graph values, but you'll notice that it's different actually, because price is always over on this side, and price is actually going to be on the y-axis. It's the y variable. You know, that's the opposite of what you're used to. Quantity is always going to be over here, listed this way, and that's the x-axis variable. You might be asking, well, why would they set it up this way? I actually don't know, and I think there's some economists that, I've heard theories on why it is, but basically it's because it's simple and it's easy to show on a graph. This is called a demand schedule. This will come up in the next video, and this comes up for your project. You actually have to create a demand schedule, and that's what we mean when we say demand schedule. You'll also notice that the price or the y variables start at a high amount and go to a low amount, always. That is the opposite, usually, of what you'll find when you're graphing linear equations. So I'm trying to point out how it's different here. This part will still be kind of in ascending order down this way. So then when it comes to the graph, what you'll notice is quantity is always on the x-axis. It always goes this way. Price is on the y-axis, and it always goes up this way. And when you plot the values from the demand schedule, you're going to get a graph that's downward sloping. That is called an inverse or opposite correlation or inverse relationship, meaning it's negative. As one goes up, the other one goes down, right? That is not the same as this. When one goes up, this goes up in math, but over here, and when we're talking about demand, it's the exact opposite. So pretty much how this works is, if we're trying to figure out the quantity demanded of cookies, right? How many cookies would you buy if cookies were $5 per cookie, right? And that's actually fairly close to the price I paid for these cookies. So that's not crazy. And maybe you'd only buy like 4 cookies if the price was $5. If the price went down to $1, you'd buy 16 cookies. And if the price was 50 cents, you'd buy 20 cookies. Another way to think about this is, there's 20 people in our class. How many people in this class would purchase a cookie for $5? Maybe only 4 of you would raise your hand. How many would purchase it for for $4? Maybe close to 8 people. How many people would purchase it for $2? Maybe we'd go over at 12, $1, 16, and then 50 cents would be 20. At some point, we would reach what we call the law of diminishing marginal utility. And what that means is, at some point, you have so much of something, whether it's cookies or food or ice cream or shirts, that no matter what the price is, you don't want it anymore. For me in my life, the way that I usually think about this is Hanford shirts. I have so many that if you gave me one, even for free, I might not take it from you. I don't need it. I have so much. And so that will be a law that kind of applies at some point here to the demand curve, that at some point demand doesn't continue to go forever and ever and ever, because people just don't want it anymore no matter what the price is. In the next video, you're going to encounter 2 things. The first is, what causes movement along the actual line of demand? Okay. And there's basically 2 things. It's going to be income, the income effect. As the price of something goes higher or lower, the demand increases or decreases. And then also what we call the substitution effect, which is, let's say instead of cookies, brownies are on sale, or brownies are less expensive. Well, if brownies are less expensive and I'm on the fence between brownies or cookies, that can cause me to buy less cookies, because I know in the back of my mind, that I could go buy brownies at a cheaper price. And so these factors are what cause movement along this line. There are other things the video is going to talk about that actually cause the entire line to shift one direction or the other. So the entire quantity could increase at every price point. People want this more. And there's a couple things that they'll get into. If you have more money, that can cause this to happen. If you have something that's popular, I always think of the new iPhone this way. The new iPhone's incredibly expensive. Why do so many people want it? Well, it's popular. People want to be associated with that product. And so even if the price point is extremely high, if it's something brand new, that causes the entire curve to shift to the right here, meaning more people want it at any price point that you want. Okay. That can also work the opposite way. If you have a brand that's not popular, that could shift the entire line this direction. It doesn't matter what the price is so much, even at cheaper prices, oh, we don't like that product. Or if you lose your job or have reduced income, you're going to buy less of something at every price point because your income is different. There's other things that can affect this, such as the price of a related product. So if the price of a related product changes, that can cause this line that's originally here to go this way or this way. So for example, if there's a sale on milk, right, and that makes milk cheaper, that could mean the demand for cookies goes higher. That's a related top product. That's a complement product. They go together. So these are all things that are come up. They're going to go into more detail in the next video. But I just want to be really clear on some of the vocab. Inverse, you need to understand that. It needs to be written down in your notes. Demand schedule and what it looks like, and then how the graphs work. Okay. If you have any questions, we're going to be doing a lot of graphing on this and going over this, but it's quite a bit different than what you're going to find in algebra class.